everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. Let's go with y'all. Go check out my other videos. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. So, y'all saw the last video. I know you did. The last video, 3 handguns that are better for home defense than concealed carry. Part 3. Obviously, I have to do 3 handguns that are better for concealed carry than home defense. Part 3. Come on. You guys knew it was happening. So, let's get right into it. No more beating around the bush. For starters, we're going to start with the Glock 43X. Now, I'm sure some of y'all are wondering, oh, well, technically, doesn't that fall under, subcompact Glocks that you talked about, one of your previous? I mean, technically, but also, I don't consider it as such because when I mentioned subcompact Glocks, I also did mention, like, the 25, is it 25? No. Yeah, the 25 might be. I can't remember. Glock has so many models at this point. The 25 isn't something we even have here in America, so that's why I don't pay too much attention to it. But I mentioned the 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. You know what I mean? So I mentioned those general, Glocks. But those are what I generally mentioned. The Glock 43X is often the most comparable when people are trying to decide what concealed carry Glock they would want between like the 43X and something like the 26, for example. So let's get right into it. With a 10+1 capacity of 9mm, and some people like to argue, oh, well, you can get, 15+1 with the shield arm magazines. All you have to do is just change out the mag catch, and you have to. That's ridiculous in my opinion. Truth be told, truth be told, I don't believe you should be changing out too much when it comes to your self-defense weapons. The reason why I say that is because with a brand like Glock, generally speaking, they will run not a problem with as long as it is stock. The reason why that is because when you start adding aftermarket products into it, it turns into a whole other ordeal where you're arguing about reliability or not. But that's besides the point. With a 10+1 capacity of 9mm, with how small the gun is itself, it's definitely going to be much more arguable for concealed carry than home defense. You hear a lot of people talk about how they love the Glock 43X for their concealed carry gun. So it's not, a question of whether or not this gun is good for concealed carry. The question is, why is it not as good for home defense? Beyond just the capacity, you got to look at the size itself. So while it is not as short and chunky as, say, like the 26 or, models similar to that, right? It is a bit thinner and taller. So some people might argue, oh, wouldn't that be better for shooting? Yeah, to some extent. However, not really, not to the fullest extent that you would argue. Truth be told, regardless of how you want to admit it or not, I've heard people make this argument for the Glock 26 too, and I'm just like, bro, that's BS. Some people like to argue that it would shoot exactly, the same as a 17 would. That's how they would argue. And that, yes, it's a comfortable gun to shoot, but it's definitely not going to be the same as shooting like a Glock 17. And that goes the same for the Glock 43X here. That doesn't change by any standard just because of the fact that, it's a tiny bit taller and slimmer than the 26. It's not going to be as comfortable and easy to shoot as a full-size Glock would be in comparison to that. So therefore, it's already losing an edge when it comes to home defense. Now, another thing, and this is also beyond just the fact that, we're generally speaking talking about smaller guns, which make them more difficult to shoot, especially for, when it comes to home defense, and you can have a larger gun, which will be easier for to shoot. Another thing you will generally see is that a lot of these guns don't have, rail capabilities. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Glock did release recently. I might be, mistaken here, guys, but I'm pretty sure they're discontinuing their standard 43Xs, and they are releasing a 43X MOS version. And if I'm not mistaken, that has a light rail on it, which that would completely negate, this entire negative right here for the Glock 43X. However, I might be mistaken on the light rail part. I know that, they are discontinuing their standard 43X models and that they are instead replacing them with a 43X MOS. So I do know that's true. I just can't remember exactly if there's a light rail on there as well or not. That's something I might look into just to be 100% sure, because if it is, that would be super cool. So regardless, generally speaking, you can see the arguments for the Glock 43X for concealed carry much well over a home defense gun. Some people can argue, oh, well, I can just get this aftermarket stick mag or this aftermarket drum mag for it. And, then I have however many rounds I want. But then you're arguing, again, whether it's reliable or not. And truth be told, I wouldn't make the argument that a aftermarket magazine is reliable without at least putting 250 or more rounds through it at the bare minimum. Now, and that includes some of those rounds being your self-defense ammo. Now, moving on, all right, because I've been getting on this one a little bit too long here. All snub-nose revolvers. It doesn't matter what brand, it doesn't matter what model, all snub-nose revolvers, no matter how you want to try to push it, are much better for concealed carry than home defense. There's a reason why they are snub-nose revolvers. There are reasons why the barrel lengths are that short, which is what makes them such things, because it is much easier to conceal carry than it is to have, it's much easier to conceal carry a snub-nose revolver than it is to carry, for example, a Colt Python with a 6-inch barrel. It is much easier. There's no arguing that. However, when it comes to home defense, this is where people, it tends to be a different argument. So, one of the things about revolvers is, you have to argue whether you're getting, some people like to call them a hammered revolver versus a hammerless revolver, but technically speaking, all revolvers have hammers. It's just that the hammerless revolvers, there we are. Sorry. The hammerless revolvers are just revolvers where the hammers are just hidden. So it's not hammerless, it's just that you don't see the hammer, so it doesn't really get snagged on anything, things like that. Regardless, though, my whole point is that generally speaking, snub-nose revolvers were designed for concealed carry. A lot of them are only in double action or in single double action, meaning there's a great chance that when you in a home defense situation, not to mention you can't really put a light on there. Let's say you have a handheld flashlight, though, regardless, even if you're able to, identify the threat with your handheld flashlight, drop it and get a good enough grip to fire correctly, with how lightweight a snub-nose revolver tends to be compared to, once again, a larger revolver, it's just going to be super snappy. That's just the truth of the matter here. Now, another issue with it comes down to capacity, but that also is an issue I personally have with almost all revolvers, is the lack of capacity. Now, is that something I'm going to sit here and harp on too much? No, because I've done a video already talking about revolvers and why I feel they're not the best for self-defense, really in any situation at this point in time. But just because I don't feel they're the best doesn't mean that they're not better for one objective than the other, or one job than the other, I guess is a better, wording to say. Now, with that being the case, I think that about wraps it up for the second one. Let's move on to the final one. And this, I'm not going to harp on this one too much either, because I actually just did a video talking about these all Derringers. Truth be told, guys, and when I did this video, this is something I did forget to mention, so I'm going to make sure to bring it up here, actually. Someone commented down below on the video, and they were like, you know what, something you didn't talk about is that one of the things Derringers were originally designed for is a quick get-off-me gun. And I'm sure they would be somewhat effective for that, is the argument that this guy made. And, that is a great argument. Yes, I'm sure to some level, if somebody's like physically on top of you and you're able to let off a round or two, it might make them be like, whoa, what's going on? But that's something I personally wouldn't rely on. Now, with that being the case, does this mean that Derringers would be much better for home defense than concealed carry? No, not by any standard. This is something I actually mentioned on my video I did all about Derringers, is just they're not the best. They don't have a great capacity. While the rounds they shoot tend to be higher pressured, it's with how small it is, you're dealing with some super snappy recoil, one. Two, with the lack of with the lack of capacity you're getting, the highest capacity I've seen personally a Derringer have was 4 rounds. Unless your reload time is immaculate, we're talking less than a quarter of a second, which I doubt it is. You're not looking at too much of a, you're not looking at too much of a self-defense weapon for home defense, let alone for concealed carry either. However, would I argue that it's better for concealed carry than home defense? Yeah, absolutely. Simply because of the fact of how small they tend to be. You can slip one in your pocket and people aren't going to notice them. That's just the truth of the matter here. It's not like these guns, are super hard to hide. All Derringers tend to be extremely small, which is one of the reasons why I don't think they're optimal for self-defense at all, is because of the fact of how small they are. They're not going to be super accurate, which is something I actually didn't mention about snub-nosed revolvers. They're not the most accurate either. Regardless, though, with how small the Derringers are, they tend not to be the most accurate. With the capacity they have, them not being the most accurate is pretty much your downfall. So with that being said, I think that about wraps it up for this video. Comment down below what you think. Would you guys try to argue that any of these firearms, or I guess firearm platforms for the last two that I listed down below, are better for home defense and concealed carry? If so, I would like to know why. But with that being said, I think that about wraps it up. Y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And whether or not you agree with me, and once again, if you don't agree with me, I want to know why. I truthfully do. But whether or not you agree with me, make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.